In this video, you are going to master how to crush the Evans Gambit with the black pieces. So let's start. So we are playing with the black pieces and our opponent with the white pieces starts with 1 e4. We play e5, knight to f3, knight to c6, bishop to c4, bishop to c5, also known as the Gogo piano opening, and here white surprises us by playing the move b4, attacking the bishop and the knight. It is a very popular gambit to play with the white pieces. And here after b4, I am recommending you guys to simply capture the pawn on b4. And from here the real fun begins. After bishop into b4, which is the main line, white's idea is to play the move c3. And after c3, what is the idea of white? Basically white is simply attacking the bishop on b4, and white's idea is to play the move d4 and have a very established center. So after c3, we are going to play the move bishop to a5, and after bishop a5, there are two moves for white to continue the position, which is d4 and short castle. If white plays a move like short castle, we can play the move knight to f6, developing the knight. White can play d4, establishing a center, and here we are going to simply short castle. After short castle, we are basically allowing white to capture the pawn on e5, and here we simply capture the pawn on e4 with the knight. And after knight into e4, there are already two ways for white to continue the position, which is bishop d5 or queen d5. If white plays queen d5, which looks like a tempting option at the first glance, here we can already play knight into c3, capturing the second pawn, knight into c3, bishop into c3. So we are having a 2-pawn advantage, attacking the rook. Here white plays bishop g5, attacking the queen, so we play queen e8, and here white plays rook c1. And here we again capture the third pawn in this position, bishop into e5. And here I have taken two moves into consideration, which is bishop b5, which is the main move, rook to e1. If white plays rook e1, which is simply a bad move, we can happily get a good position after d6. We are 3 pawns up and it's a completely winning position. So going back, this is exactly what happens if rook e1. If white is bishop b5, which is the main move, here we can simply play the move a6, and we have a pair of minor pieces traded up. Queen takes bishop, queen takes, knight takes, and here black is a piece down, but here we are simply having a move like f6, attacking both minor pieces, knight into c6, f into g5, knight check, and again capturing another pawn. So here after bishop e6, rook into pawn, bishop into pawn. So here at the end of the position, we are a pawn up. It looks like it's even position, but definitely black is better. So for example, if rook a1, attacking the bishop, we can already play a move like rook b8, attacking the rook. So here, if white tries to trade off the rooks, white cannot capture the bishop because it's a back rank issue mate. So going back, if white tries to move the rook, we can already play a move like a5. So again, white cannot capture the bishop because it's a back rank mate. So white will try to play a move like h3. And now the idea is to capture the bishop, but here simply rook b1 check, we have a rook trade, and now you won't believe it, but it's completely winning position for black because it's a passed pawn and you can't really stop it. It's completely winning position for black. So this is exactly what happens if your opponent plays a move like queen d5. If white plays a move like bishop d5, attacking the knight on e4, we play the move knight c5, bishop to a3, attacking the knight and also putting pressure on the rook on f8. We can play the move bishop b6, and after bishop b6 there is no way for white to put any more pressure on the knight on c5 for now. So here white develops with knight d2, and here we simply play a move like knight e7, attacking the bishop. So as you guys know that the bishop pairs are considered one of the strongest pair in chess. So white will try to simply pull back the bishop, and here we can play the move d6, simply protecting the knight and also breaking the bishop pin on a3. Pawn takes, and here we simply capture with the pawn this time. And after cd6, rook e1, putting some pressure, we can play the move d5 first, attacking the bishop, kicking the bishop back, and now playing a move like rook e8, moving the rook from this particular diagonal. And after rook e8, bishop c2, we can play a move like knight g6. The idea is pretty simple. We are putting our minor pieces at their optimum square, and after knight g6, maybe rook trade, and this position is extremely fine for black. Black is a pawn up. We can play a move like bishop e6, rook c8, putting pressure on c3 pawn, and at the worst scenario, black can achieve a draw or at least to win a game. So this is exactly how you can continue the position if your opponent short castle in the position. Now let's try to discuss what happens if your opponent plays a move like d4. After d4, the idea is pretty clear. White is directly going for establishing a strong center. After d4, we play the move d6, and here I have taken 3 moves into consideration, which is d into e5, queen to b3 and short castle. First, let's try to discuss what happens if d into e5, capturing a pawn. After d into e5, we are going to play the move bishop to g4, simply developing our bishop. Because if you try to capture this pawn in this position, here white can already trade off the queens in this position, and if you try to capture the queen, the e5 pawn is hanging, and if you try to capture the queen with the king, the pawn on f7 is hanging. So that's the reason, going back, we are going to play the move bishop g4, focusing on developing our pieces. And material wise, now the position is even. After bishop g4, e into d6, we play the move knight f6. Now, the fun part here is, we are not capturing the pawn on d6 in this position. And after knight f6, if white short castle in the position, we can happily short castle. And after h3, something like h3, we can simply capture the knight, queen takes, and now we have a strong move, knight e5. Going for the bishop pair, queen e2, knight into bishop, takes, c into d6. And after c into d6, this position is already better for black, I would say, because white's minor pieces, the rook on a1 has not yet developed yet. And whereas we are having a free flow of position via rook c8 putting pressure on c8, rook e8 putting pressure on e4 pawn, and black is already having a better position. So going back, this is exactly what happens if your opponent does a short castle. If your opponent gets greedy and capture the pawn on c7, you can already capture the pawn back with the queen, and you can already sense this position. Black is having too much development, and black can just play a move like short castle, rook d8, rook e8, capture the e4 pawn back, and black is already having a completely winning position. So going back, this is exactly what happens if your opponent captures the pawn on e5. Going back, what happens if your opponent does a short castle in this position? After a short castle, we play a move like bishop to g4, developing our bishop and pinning up the knight. After bishop g4, our opponent is going to play the move queen b3, which is generally the main idea in such a position in Evans Gambit, putting pressure on the f7 pawn. After queen b3, we are going to play the move bishop into f3, capturing the knight. And after bishop into f3, there are two moves for white to continue the position, either to capture the pawn on f7 or to capture the bishop. If white plays g into f3 first, capturing the bishop, we can play a move like queen d7, defending the f7 pawn. And after move like d into e5, we capture with the knight. And after queen b7, capturing the pawn and also attacking the rook, we must play rook d8. And here white is having two ways to move the bishop, via to b5 or to e2. If white plays bishop e2, we can play a move like knight f6. And after something like f4, you must play a move like knight c6 in this position. After knight c6, at the first glance, it looks losing because bishop b5 is coming in, and it looks like black is simply losing a piece. But the position is completely winning for black, because here black can play the move queen to g4 check, king h1, giving another check, and simply short castling in this position. What's the main idea? After short castle, white captures the knight, and here we simply play the move knight to g4. What's the idea? After knight g4, our idea is to play the move queen h3 and simply capturing the pawn on h2. The main move for white is to play the move f4, f5. The idea here is, if queen h3, white can play the move like bishop f4. But here after f5, we can play the move like bishop to b6. The position is completely losing for white because bishop into f2 is coming up and the game is over for white. So going back, this is exactly what happens if your opponent plays bishop e2. If white plays a move like bishop b5, we can play the move c6, attacking the bishop, having a fourth queen trade, bishop e2, and the position is still better for black because obviously I would say the king is well centralized, and we are having much activity compared to the white's pieces on c1, b1, and rook to a1. So, and the knight on b1 can't move because the c3 pawn would be hanging. So because of these such conditions, black is having a better position. So going back, this is exactly what happens if your opponent plays g into f3. If your opponent plays bishop into f7 check, which is the main move, we play the move king f8. And after g f3, we are going to play the move e into d4. It looks like white simply broke the castle of black, so it should be better for white. But there is no way white can put pressure on the king on f8, and black is having simply a better position. What's the idea? After e into d4, our idea is to simply capture another pawn. So here white must go back with the bishop. What's the idea of moving the bishop? Now white is threatening to capture the pawn on b7. So we must play the move like knight e7, simply focusing on developing our pieces. King h1. What's the idea? White wants to get maximum pieces near the king. So here we have simply knight into bishop, capturing the bishop. Pawn into and simply knight e7. And after knight e7, black is having a very comfortable position after maybe pawn takes, queen e8, queen takes pawn, rook b8, queen s6. the idea is to simply attacking the bishop, and after queen to a6, we can play the move queen to b5, forcing a queen trade, and the position is better for black already. While white is a pawn up, but you can just look at the white's pawn structure. All the pawns are going to collapse, and black is having a very comfortable position. King f7, maybe rook f8 or rook b8, black is already better. So going back, this is exactly what happens if your opponent does a short castle. What happens, coming to the main move, if your opponent plays queen to b3 in the position. After queen b3, the idea is pretty simple. White is putting pressure on the pawn on f7. Here we play the move queen to d7, and here after d into e5, we play the move bishop b6, a very interesting move. After bishop to b6, black's idea is to play the move knight to a5 and get a bishop. And after that position, black would be having a very comfortable position. So to avoid that, white must play the move bishop b5, pinning up the knight. And here we simply focus on developing our pieces knight e7, not getting greedy and capturing the pawn. And after knight e7, there are two moves for white. If short castle, we can capture the pawn this time, because after rook d1, we are having a move like queen e6. And after queen e6, we have a queen trade, and after knight into e5, we can simply short castle in the position. And after knight trade, black is already having a better position because white is having a bad pawn structure and isolated pawn. And if white tries to capture the knight in this position, giving black the bad pawn structure, but this time we are having the bishop pair, which gives us already a good position and a very sustainable and long advantage. So going back, this is exactly what happens if your opponent does a short castle. If your opponent simply goes for capturing the pawn on d6, this time we can simply capture the pawn with the queen, and after short castle we can simply play the move bishop e6, attacking the queen, kicking the queen back and simply doing a long castle. And after long castle, knight d2, we can play the move knight g6, a simple natural looking move. And black is having no particular weakness I can judge, and whereas white is a pawn down, and there is no particular weakness for black that I can judge. Material wise, we are having an even position, but white is having a bad pawn structure on c3 and e4. So after knight g6, something like maybe knight c4, we can already capture the knight in the position, bishop into and knight e5. Black is very comfortable in this position. So going back, if your opponent plays something like e4, trying to expand on the queen side, you can already play a move like knight f5, stopping the expansion, and black is already way better than you can think. Like king b8, you can play queen c5, putting pressure over here, or maybe simply putting pressure on the d file. Black is already way better, and it is much easy to play with the black pieces. So now you have successfully mastered how to crush the Evans Gambit with the black pieces. So thank you for watching, and bye bye.